how we understand. Talent isn't real. At least not how we understand it to be. Dr. Tomahawk Cole here. So today I'm going to be talking about why talent isn't real and showing you all these different scientific sources that kind of prove it. So there have been a bunch of different studies where they look at twins, identical twins, and fraternal twins. These studies look to see if there's a correlation between people's performance and their genetics, which identical twins have exactly the same genetics. So there should be a really good correlation between performance and their genetics. They should be very similar to one another if it's a genetic basis for them being good at something. A study I looked at a whole bunch of twins. They said at the start that the environmental factors didn't play much of a role in their correlations. And even this study showed that the correlations weren't that close together. It wasn't like a 1-to-1. It was anywhere from 30 to 70%.
My name is Julius, and I'm your twin brother.
But the big thing about this study is, even though it shows that, it doesn't really show that. The way they did this study is they took all these people who are signed up to be on a registry of twins, and they had them fill out a questionnaire that said how good they were at stuff. So take that right there, just throw it out the window. It doesn't have anything to do with getting really good at something. Expert performance is different than just performance or self-reported performance. We want proof of it. So in this study, Erickson takes a study that said, oh, genetics are very important. And he restricted the sample of the individuals who were in the study to only be the ones who had good outcomes at national competitions. And when he did that, out of 507 pairs of twins, only 2 pairs both had good outcomes at national competitions. And there were 5 cases in those identical twins where only one of the twins had a good performance at a national level competition. What that says is there were 5 twins who were really good and their twins were not. Maybe it's not genetic. There's also been study on reaction times, and they tried to see if reaction times had a genetic basis. If there was a genetic basis for neural speed, right? A reaction time is just how fast your nerves work. They didn't find any correlation between the genetics of somebody and their reaction time. So what this all means right now is there's no clear understanding of how genes affect your performance in an activity, but we know that there's not one or a set that we can look at and say, oh, this person's going to be good at this. Except for there is some correlation between height in certain activities like sports and other strength activities and being short for gymnastics, but even that isn't the end all be all. The next thing I want to talk about is IQ, or general ability, and expert performance. It's really not the thing that leads the way in expert performance.
I have an IQ of 146. I can absorb the world as I see it. I did everything. They just completed my vision.
Oh my. I kind of want to take this shirt off now and burn it.
Erickson talks about in this study, when you look at experts in a domain and you look at people with high IQ, there's often a very low correlation between people with high IQ being really good at the domain versus people with a low IQ being really good at that domain. What that means is that people who are really smart, have a really high IQ, have a lot of high general ability, don't end up being any better than someone who has a lower IQ when they're finished practicing everything they've practiced, when they've become an expert in their field. One of the reasons they think this is because of the different skills that you need to develop in order to be an expert performer versus just be generally good at it. When you're generally good at something, you can see little things here and there, and you can use this general ability you have to be good at it at first up to a certain point. But if you try to keep using those same tricks, they stop working because you can't rely on these tricks to make you an expert. So the studies show that experts are faster and more accurate than less accomplished individuals, regardless of their general ability. But that expert speed does not transfer to general tests of reaction time or perception or anything else. It's just specific to that domain. And it's that specificity that we're trying to build when we're trying to get better at things, no matter what it is. That specificity is not the same. Those skills are not the same as having general ability or a high high IQ, as some people put it. At the end of the day, having a high general ability as measured by a bunch of tests, none of which are really great, can help you get better at something at the beginning of it faster than someone else if they don't get coaching, but it will only get you to a certain level, and then you're just in the same boat as everyone else. Someone who has practiced thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours has a highly specialized neural network to do the tasks that they need to do. If you need proof that you don't need a high IQ to be good at something, take a look at this video of this ape.
In 30 attempts, Chris only once reached 9 without making a mistake. When Ayumu sat the same test, he correctly remembered the numbers almost 90% of the time. Even when the PRI played Ayumu against their best human students, who were given regular practice sessions, Ayumu still beat all humans.
So we all know that chimpanzees do not have the same general ability as a human being, yet this chimpanzee could beat students who were trained because the chimpanzee had more specific training at the task and more time on the task. His neural network was built to perform that task very well, whereas the students and the interviewer didn't have those same skills built up. They had a higher general ability, but were not able to perform at the same level as an expert in the field. The next thing to talk about is, oh, but this kid, he's so good. I can tell just by looking at how he does it. He's already so talented. How did he do it? He has talent. He is special. No. So studies have been done where they look at these kids and these kids don't actually end up showing any specific high performance in these tasks, but the people around them, family members, they might see something and think, oh, yes, my kid's special.
Very special kid.
Another study that dealt with this also noticed that only one kid in any family is ever seen as special or talented. And they think that this is probably because there's actually a huge resource cost to develop someone's skill after you see that they're special and you really want to go all in on it. There's a resource of time, motivation, and money. 3 things that you can only afford to do for one kid.
Between your heart and mine.
So these kids, they might end up being super experts, but it's not because they were super special and their genetics helped them. It's because their parents or everyone around them put tons of resources and time, and the kid themselves put tons and tons and tons and tons of guided, deliberate practice into this thing, which was provided for because someone at one point said, oh, you look like you're really good at that, even though the studies show that they're not really good at that because they're kids. Kids are terrible at everything. Another piece of proof that you think of and say, well, that doesn't make sense. What about this? Savantism, like Rain Man, or any other time you've seen anyone like, oh, now I can play the piano really well. These people, the studies show, always come along with another aspect that makes a lot of sense as to why they'd be so good at something, and it's hyperfixation. They might be really good at doing these math problems now, but guess what? It's because all they want to do is do math problems all day, every day. They might be really good at art now, but guess what they do all day, every day now? Their brain changed in a certain way and made them obsessed with it, and lo and behold, with enough practice, they got better.
Before I played piano, things were hurting my hands and ears. When I started playing the piano, all of it went away. Playing the piano is easier than eating and breathing.
Although I did see this one really funny part in this study of a guy who claimed to be a savant at German. He said he had been in Germany for 12 months and someone said, well, then you should be able to speak German. And he said he could speak German for a whole conversation. And then after that, oh, he thought about it. He couldn't do it anymore. But then later on, this same guy, he did the same thing like several years later. All of a sudden, he could play the piano really well. And then he couldn't do it anymore. So in that case, I would say those people are probably lying. No! Some of the biggest evidence for me, though, that talent isn't a thing is my knowledge of neuroanatomy and neurophysiology. When you make any movement in your body at all, it's driven by neurons in your brain. Your primary motor cortex lights up whenever you move your hand, whenever you click your mouse. You've got a lot of actions happening inside your brain. Your brain moves everything. Your brain does everything in your body. If someone is able to do something at a very high level, it's because they're able to control their muscles better using those neurons, using more complex connections between neurons. And more recent studies have started to really show some theories behind how our brains actually change and grow constantly. We used to think that brains stopped growing once you became an adult, but now we know that's for sure wrong. I showed you the taxi driver study before where their hippocampus grew as they did more taxi driving and more taxi driving practice. There's another study here where they taught people to write and draw with their left hands. They used only people who were right-handed, and they had these left-handed people come back over the course of several weeks to train writing with their hand. What they ended up seeing was super interesting. Both sides of the brain, the right side and the left side that had to do with manipulating your hands, they both ended up growing and then shrinking. Now, the right side ended up growing more because the right side controls your left hand, but it's super interesting that both sides were actually involved. And this paper, this study actually posits this really super interesting theory as to how your brain ends up growing. This goes over a theory for how brains grow and then shrink and rewire in order to get better at something, become more complex. What this shows is that stem cells in your brain, they divide and become neuronal progenitor cells, and then they differentiate and move around, and they die, and they connect to each other, and then they mature. And at the same time, these neural cells that are already there and these new ones are sprouting new axons and then making new synapses, making new connections to make a more complex neural network to be able to control the movements the way you're trying to. After they do all that, now comes the time for efficiency. The ones that aren't being used as much, they end up dying off and being pruned back, and that's why you see a shrinking after you see a growth. There's a big growth, stuff is connected, and there's a shrinking where you get rid of all the stuff you're not using anymore, and so your brain doesn't explode out of your head. This information, I think, is the most important and most convincing information to show that talent isn't a thing. If our brains can grow and change based on what we do, then what is stopping us from continuing to change and grow our brains to be better and better and better at something? Nothing, except for motivation, time, and money. So what's the most effective way to grow your brain? It's to make these new connections. If you do the same thing over and over and over again and never make any changes, your brain, remember how it shrunk down, those neurons shrunk down to use the ones you already had? Those are just reinforced. In order to grow more brain cells, in order to get better at something past a certain point, you need to force yourself outside of what you normally do. You need to change what you're doing. You need to deliberate practice in order to improve. Figure out what's wrong and change it.
Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action.
And we run into one really big problem here. Our worst enemy is always going to be ourselves. Our brain wants to be extremely, extremely efficient. We want to burn as few calories as possible. We want to be as lazy as we can be. Our brain wants to use the old pathways. Without us purposefully pushing outside of that comfort zone, those pathways are exactly what we're going to take. That's why when Olympic swimmers try jumping for height, they're not as good as people who aren't even athletes at jumping, because their brain is so efficient at using their legs a certain way that they just use their legs a certain way instantly without even thinking about it, because that's how efficient our brains want to be. It's easier that way. The same thing goes for aim training 100%. If you do something over and over again without thinking about it, you're reinforcing that and you're not going to improve on it. If you look at it and you try to change, or you come and get coaching, or you come to the Lighthawk FPS Discord and look at our different training blocks, you'll be able to see what you're doing wrong, make changes, and improve. But you'll still have to be really careful, because your brain wants to be efficient still, and it's not going to stop trying to not learn. It's not going to stop because it needs to make new brain cells. That takes a lot of calories. It needs to make new connections. That takes a lot of calories. Your brain wants to do the least amount of work possible, and you need to prove to it and force it to be as active and focused as you can to make these changes that you need to make. That's why training is so hard, and that's why so few people make it to expert level. Talent is not real. Done. Okay? I don't want to see any more genetic aimer. No. Ridiculous. It just doesn't make sense. Okay? Don't want to hear it. If you're good at something, it's because you put in the work to get good at it. There's no special trick. There's no special connections that got made in your brain magically. It's just not how we work. Do you guys have really strong opinions on talent? Tell me why I'm just so wrong. I'm so wrong. Tell me down below in the comments. If you liked the video, please like it. If you disliked it, because why would you dislike this? I don't understand. Well, like the video. It's over there. It's somewhere. Like the video. Thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you again soon.
Minigames targets going through a deceleration.
Good risk posture isn't going to be exactly the same for each person. Talent isn't real. Stop with this genetic stuff. It doesn't help anybody. Talent isn't real. Talent isn't real. It's just an excuse to stop trying. Just stop trying. Oh, there's no point. He's just so much better than me. Yeah, it sure is easier to give up, isn't it? Talent isn't real. Talent isn't real.
Oh, I'm streaming. Nice video, isn't it? I like this guy's video. These guy videos. I like these guy videos. I agree with him. I don't believe in genetics. Okay, I did believe in genetics for the reaction time. Not genetics, but like it's something like there is not much we can do about it. We can become end gods by training a lot, but changing the reaction time, I'm not sure. But the talent, I agree. It's not like it's a hoax. Maybe people use it the wrong way. You know, talent is like, okay, you are talented at something. You are really good at something, more than the average person. You are especially good, but it doesn't mean that you are good just because you were born with that talent. Or that others wouldn't be able to be comparably good to you. I'm not saying better than you, but comparably good to you. They can't be because they don't have the talent. I never believed that shit. Well, I was really bad in mathematics when I was in elementary school, and I became an engineer. You know, one of the professions that most uses mathematics. I became an engineer with a master's degree that is equivalent pretty much to a PhD degree. So, and I was really bad at mathematics. I just found the thing fun. I liked it, and I don't know, I had the feeling that there is something here. Let me invest my time into this, and I did nothing else but mathematics. And I reaped the benefits. I reaped the benefits. What is the past tense of reap? I reaped the benefits of studying mathematics a lot. Not just in mathematics, I became very good at mathematics, which gave me an engineering degree by the top engineering school in my country. But sent me to Japan, one of the best experiences in my whole life. But then that's not all. I believe that all that I learned by studying mathematics the hard way, like trying hard to be one of the best, it translated to real life. I'm a better person thanks to mathematics. Better not in the sense that I'm a good person that does good deeds, a good Samaritan, not that. I mean like I'm a good person, like I'm a very skilled individual, and that translates to my other activities. Of course, it doesn't mean that I'm God at everything I do. I'm not an end God, for example, but maybe I will be. I don't know. I just I'm not doing KovaaKs because my sleeping schedule is messed up. But you know, I usually become good in what I try, very good in what I try. Not necessarily as good as I am in mathematics, but I believe that my skills in mathematics, they don't end there. Mathematics is out of the box. So it doesn't end, it's not an end in itself. It doesn't end in mathematics. It goes beyond and transcends the boundaries of mathematical knowledge. So I became a better individual to myself, of course, and to society as well. I believe that. I really believe that. So when I started the mathematics, I was really bad, but I knew there was something there. I believed that, and I decided to devote a lot of time. I really enjoyed it, and well, I reaped the benefits. I reap continuously to this day, and well, people mocked me when I would say that I wanted to study in the top engineering school of my country, because it's well known for its very tough mathematical examination, entrance examination. and I did it. So and I graduated with honors. So you know, if I were to listen to this talent shit, I would think I have no talent for that. I should give up. I should give up and be a beggar. Like my family, my mom would tell me I could be a swimmer, an athlete. I was an athlete for a few months, but I gave up because I was afraid of becoming a beggar. Like I had no support, financial support. I mean, so without the financial support, I could not continue to I was very worried to continue as an athlete. I was very new and I was not only new to swimming, but I was very young. So I didn't have a lot of knowledge or wisdom. So very young, tender age, adolescent, and I didn't have support from my parents. So I gave up. I think like I should have given up, but not so soon. I should have stayed a bit longer and learned more. I learned so much by being a swimmer. So in mathematics it was the same. The difference is that for mathematics, like okay, maybe if I study mathematics I can get into a good college. So I was less likely to become a beggar. I was less likely to receive payment, earnings as good as a top athlete, swimmer, but I was less likely to become a beggar compared to an athlete. In my country it's really bad. So yeah, that's interesting. So that's what you give to highly skilled individuals. Oh, if you want to be an athlete, okay, you can be a beggar. So welcome to Banana Republic. So I was studying mathematics and I don't know, I was totally occupied with it and I was entertained. I don't see it as an entertainment. You know, I don't do mathematics because it's because monkeys, they are all about having fun and giving laughs. That's what monkeys are all about. They think of nothing else but having fun. So so I try mathematics, but in the process it was entertaining, it was fun, but that wasn't the reason I tried so hard in mathematics. That wasn't the reason. So well, I became really good in mathematics. I became one of the top scientists in the world, but I'm not one of the top mathematicians. Man, there are some guys really good out there. You have no idea. Those Olympicians, those Olympic mathematical Olympics, they are crazy, man. You know, I'm not on that level, mathematical level, but I am a top scientist, so I'm really good, and I was a really good scientist when I was active. So, but I'm not one of the top mathematicians. Far from that. There are some really good mathematicians. You have no idea. Even in my country, surprisingly, we have good mathematicians in my country. I won't say out the names. It's pretty obvious. Yeah, you can guess the names that are coming to my mind now. Like Gugu. You don't know. You won't know him. But if you are from Brazil, maybe you'll know him. Even the president went there to compliment and salute him. Salute is my addition. He didn't salute, but anyway. Arthur, yeah, okay. Another one, he won the Fields Medal. There are more. Even my professor in the in the cram school for the entrance examination of my college, he got, I think he got honorable mention in international Olympiad. That's great. I'm far from that level. Even though I got admission into my college, I'm not in a international mathematical Olympiad level. So Luciano, Professor Luciano. There are more, but I just remember these. There are more for sure. So, you know, I never believed that talent crap. If I believed that talent crap, I would never try mathematics so hard. So hard. I don't know, if you come to think of talent, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. So, you are born good in something. Maybe if you believe in several lives, maybe that's the case. But let's say first life for everyone, there is no such thing as talent. So, wow. I'm really good in mathematics, you can believe me, but I'm far from being one of the top mathematicians in the world. I was never good in Olympics. I never really tried Olympics very hard. I had other priorities, but my priority was to be a scientist, like my idol, my icon, Isaac Newton. So I became. Isaac Newton, who was a mathematician, he invented calculus, and he made other contributions. I remember now the binomial that he receives bears his name as well. Newton binomial. Is that how you say in English? So I tried really hard, and the skills I got by studying mathematics really hard didn't end there in mathematics. They translated into everything in my scientific job and into my life, even into gaming. Oh yeah, baby, I'm talking about my guide. I'm the guide writer, baby. But you can just call me the author, baby. So even my guide. Be careful when you evaluate my guide. You may evaluate the form and miss the content. You may look at the shape and miss the interior. So it can be better. That's the surprising aspect. It can be much better. And maybe if I have the time, I'll try to make it much better. So yeah, my editors are telling me that it's time to shut down the stream. So I'll be back later. Now we have to do some stuff